Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Ballabha Giridharidhari Jaya Gopi Jana Ballabha Giridharidhari Sudanandan Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Ballabha Giridharidhari Shower before. Thank you. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Srila Prabhupada Jai. That fire is really cooking. Can you feel it? I was sweating. I feel like I'm in a sauna. That's amazing. So all that energy is in the wood. It's amazing. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Nam Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Deving Sarasatim Vyasam Tatam Jayam Mudiriye. Before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should first offer our respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, to learn Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and to Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master. Namah Vishnuvedaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namah Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravan Gauravan Pacharni Nivise Sunyavadi Paskatari Satarni Gores to show Prabhupada. So we're reading from text 8, the first canto, chapter 18. So, long underwear is not required in the temple. I really feel like I'm in a song. Kim Nu Baleshu Surena Kim Nu Baleshu Surena Kalina Dira Viruna.
It could be Benina, or we just disconnect that.
What? The what?
It's an arm.
It was a little hard to read that way.
Okay.
Connected.
So Kalina Dira Viruna Apramatta Pramateshu Apramatta Pramateshu Yo Vriko Nishu Vartate Yo Vriko Nishu Vartate Kim Nu Baleshu Surena Kalina Dira Viruna Apramatta Pramateshu Yo Vriko Nishu Vartate Kim Nu Baleshu Surena Kalina Dira Viruna Apramatta Pramateshu Yo Vriko Nishu Vartate. Was that 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kim Nu Baleshu Surena Kalina Dhira Viruna Apramatta Pramateshu Yo Vriko Nishu Vartate.
Kim Nu Baleshu Sarena Kalina Dira Viruna Apramatta Pramateshu Yo Vriko
Nishu Vartate.
Kim Nu Baleshu Surena
Kalina Dhira Viruna
Apramata pramatesu.
Apramata pramateshu.
Yorikonishu vartate.
Yorikonishu vartate.
Ladies, or Matajis.
Kimnu baleshu shurena.
Kimnu baleshu shurena.
Kalina dira viruna.
Kalina dira viruna.
Pramata pramateshu.
Apramata pramateshu.
Yovri kunreshu vartate.
Yorikonishu vartate.
Kimnu baleshu surena.
Kimnu baleshu shurena.
Kalina dira viruna.
Kalina dira viruna.
Pramata parametesu.
Apramata pramateshu.
Yorikonishu vartate.
Yorikonishu vartate. Kimnu baleshu shurena. Kalina dira viruna. Apramata pramateshu. Yorikonishu vartate.
Is that everyone?
Kimnu baleshu shurena. Kalina dira viruna. Apramata pramateshu. Yorikonishu vartate.
Okay, so word for word. Kim, what?
What?
New,
New.
maybe.
Maybe.
Balesu,
Baleshu.
among the less intelligent persons.
Among the less intelligent persons.
Surena,
Surena.
by the powerful.
By the powerful.
Kalina,
Kalina.
by the personality of Kali.
By the personality of Kali.
Dira,
Vira.
self-control.
Self-control.
Viruna,
Viruna.
by one who is afraid of.
By one is afraid of.
Apramata,
Apramata.
one who is careful.
One who is careful.
Pramatesu,
Pramateshu.
among the careless.
Among the
careless.
Ya,
Ya.
one who.
One who.
Vrika,
Vrika.
tiger.
Tiger.
Narishu,
Nourish you.
among men.
Amen.
Vartate,
Vartate.
exists.
Exists.
So I'll say, and then you repeat. Maharaj Pariksit
Maharaj Pariksit
considered that less intelligent men
considered as less intelligent man
might find the personality of Kali
might find the personality of Kali
to be very
to
powerful,
be very powerful,
but that those who are self-controlled
but that those who are self-controlled
would have nothing to fear.
would have nothing to fear.
The king was powerful like a tiger
The king was powerful like a tiger
and took care for the foolish,
and took care of the foolish,
careless persons.
careless persons.
So again, Maharaj Pariksit considered that less intelligent men might find the personality of Kali to be very powerful, but that those who are self-controlled who have nothing to fear. But that those who are self-controlled that those who are self-controlled would have nothing to fear. The king was powerful like a tiger and took care of the foolish, careless persons. Purport by Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Those who are not devotees of the Lord are careless and unintelligent. Unless one is thoroughly intelligent, one cannot be a devotee of the Lord. Those who are not devotees of the Lord fall prey to the actions of Kali. It will not be possible to bring about a saner condition in society unless we are prepared to accept the modes of action adopted by Maharaj Pariksit, i.e., propagation of the devotional service of the Lord to the common man. Again, the verse is Mars Prickett considered the less intelligent men might find the personality of Kali to be very powerful, but that those who are self-controlled would have nothing to fear. The king was powerful like a tiger and took care for the foolish, careless persons. So the last sentence is kind of interesting in this purport. First of all, I want from my respectful obeisance to Srila Prabhupada. And again, so he says in the Srila Prabhupada says, it will not be possible to bring about a saner condition in society unless we are prepared to accept the modes of action adopted by Mars Prickett, that is, propagation of the devotional service of the Lord to the common man. So, there's several layers to this, I feel. The first layer is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 21. Yad yad acharete sheshtas tatat evatara jana. Whatever action a great man performs, common men will follow. Whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. And in the beginning of the purport, Prabhupada says, people generally always require a leader who can teach the public by practical behavior. A leader cannot teach the public to stop smoking if he himself smokes. Lord Chaitanya said that a teacher should behave properly before he begins teaching. It's like I heard this story once where his mother brought her son to a spiritual, it was a priest or a teacher, and she didn't want him to eat chocolate. And too much chocolate. This is just an example. So it might have been something else. And the spiritual leader said, okay, bring him back in a week. She was a little confused by that instruction, but she followed it. And then a week later she came back, and the teacher, she brought the son in, and the teacher said, you shouldn't eat too much chocolate. And he said, okay, all right. So then when the boy walked out, the mother asked him, well, I'm confused. Why did you ask me to wait a week? He said, well, when you asked me, I was eating too much chocolate. So for the last week or so, I practiced not eating too much chocolate. So the point being that you have to be, you can't be, do what I say, not what I do. And Lord Chaitanya's movement is all about that. And Srila Prabhupada, the founder of Acharya, is all about that. One devotee, Charupa, he says in his memories about Srila Prabhupada that he had studied English literature. I think he graduated from the University of Virginia. And he always expected that the author and the author's writings there was a dichotomy. Like there was a movie not so long ago, which I found kind of disturbing because I really looked up to Charles Dickens. He seemed like someone who really understood the sufferings of oppressive governments and of the working class people. But then it turned out, in his own personal life, he wasn't always so, he had his good and bad moments. And so there's a dichotomy a lot of times with the person, the author's personal life and what he writes. Because it's fiction, it's entertainment, it's a different thing. Whereas with scripture, one should actually live by what they preach. And Srila Prabhupada, he said, when he first met him in 1970, he knew very little about the Hare Krishna movement. He had read the Bhagavad Gita, and he really knew very little about Prabhupada, but he wasn't really sure what to expect. But what he did find was that there was no difference between the person Prabhupada and the book that Prabhupada wrote. That Prabhupada actually was the personification of the book. He was always doing just what the book says, to always think of Krishna, to always speak of Krishna, always chant of Krishna, to distribute Krishna. There was no difference. And which he found extremely refreshing. So, later on in this purport, I believe it says in this purport of the one you read yesterday, in the Bhagavatam, that we should follow the moral codes. Where wasn't it in your... There's, sinful acts, nefarious activities. Where did I read that? We had to... we wanted to... It also meant like... we were talking about it in somebody's class. That other... it may not be necessarily from the Bhagavad Gita, but from also, other moral teachings, like the Bible and so on and so forth, that we behave in a way that, it says, honor thy mother and thy father. That's in the Bible. It's in all scriptures. Mm-hmm. And yet, that this is actual fact, that there was a point in time back, I remember in the late 1970s, in Florida, where there's a tremendously high population of seniors, retirement. There was actually a study done by some congressmen, the cost benefits of euthanasia. That it would, not just like Kevorkian, who was, because they were in so much pain and to eliminate their pain. Not like that. This was an actual analysis that we're supporting these people and they give nothing to society. This is, the calculation was very cold, calculated, financial. These were units that we're having to support that no longer. And no sense of what they have done in the past for communities. Honor thy mother and thy father. So, how can you follow people that are leaders, that are, making such, there's this trend within our society, and we've all seen it, but I can remember very clearly. It's called relative morality, or situational morality. There's no absolutes anymore. There was a time, I remember when I was in high school, early on, maybe sophomore year, one young girl got pregnant. And everybody knew, and it was a big deal. So she had to go to Puerto Rico, and they had this was a good family, but they had to move out of the town. Mm-hmm. There was shame. And now it's, of course, in the state of Mississippi, they've made it so that it's almost impossible. But the point is that by popular vote, we change our morality. But the morality is absolute. Thou shalt not kill is an absolute law. You can't change that. So we need leaders that will set that proper example, so that the less intelligent and the foolish won't be misled. So I would like to be that, because here Prabhupada in this purport to the Bhagavad Gita, he mentions Lord Chaitanya said that a teacher should behave properly. So Lord Chaitanya came 500 years ago to start this Harinam Sankirtan movement, which is the prime benediction for humanity at large. I would like to read to you some of the reasons why he came. And I found it very fascinating. Let's see what it is. Because first it starts with Krishna. Krishna first, he's thinking something that, it's here. So Lord Krishna, the son of King Raja, is the Supreme Lord. He eternally enjoys transcendental pastimes in his eternal abode, Goloka, which includes Brajadama. Once in a day of Brahma, he descends in this world to manifest his transcendental pastimes. We know that there are 4 ages, yugas, namely Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali. These 4 together constitute one Divya Yuga. 71 Divya Yugas constitute one Manvantara. There are 14 Manvantaras in one day of Brahma. The present day, who is the 7th, the present Manu, is the 7th. He is called Vivasvata, the son of Vivaswan. 27 Divya Yugas, 27 times 4,320,000 solar years of his age have now passed. So there were 6 other previous Manus who served for a term of 71 times the 4 yugas. And so then, at the end of the Dwapara Yuga, in the 28th Divya Yuga, Lord Krishna appears on earth with the full paraphernalia of eternal Brajadam. And servitude, friendship, parental affection, and conjugal love are the 4 transcendental mellows. By the devotees who cherish these 4 mellows, Lord Krishna is subdued. Absorbed in such transcendental love, Lord Krishna enjoys in Braja with his devoted servants, friends, parents, and conjugal lovers. Lord Krishna enjoys in his pastimes, his transcendental pastimes, as long as he wishes, and then he disappears. After disappearing, however, he thinks thus: for a long time I have not bestowed on the Lord devotional service to me upon the inhabitants of the world. Without such attachment, the existence of the material world is useless. Purport: the Lord seldom awards pure transcendental love. But without such pure love of God, freed from fruitive activities and impure speculation, one cannot attain perfection in life. Everywhere in the world, people worship me according to scriptural injunctions, but simply by following regulative principles, one cannot attain the loving attainments of the devotees of Brajabhumi. Knowing my opulences, the whole world looks upon me with awe and veneration, but devotion made feeble by such reverence does not attract me. And Prabhupada goes on to explain. By performing such regulative devotional service and awe and veneration, one may go to Vaikuntha and attain the 4 kinds of liberation. So Krishna goes on to explain that he's thinking that I haven't, gone to, and this is after he's already left. He's come here to the material world, performed his pastimes, and he's thinking, this has been a long time since I've actually distributed pure, unalloyed, transcendental devotional service. So that's when he decides that it's time to come as Lord Chaitanya. This is one of the external reasons. There's external and there's confidential reasons. And you hear how it's actually literally in the day of Brahma, it's just shy of 2 billion years that he finally does come as Krishna and displays his eternal pastimes. And then 4,500 years after that, he comes as Lord Chaitanya. And so then there's another 2 billion years in this day of Brahma. And then there's another, something like 4 billion years in the night. And then another 2 billion years on top of that. So you're talking about another 8 billion years before this opportunity comes back. Meditate on that. I can't. It's beyond my imagination. So now we find out how it is that he appeared. Advaita Acharya thought, if Sri Krishna were to appear as an incarnation, he himself could preach devotion by his personal example, In this age of Kali, there is no religion other than the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. But how in this age will the Lord appear as an incarnation? I shall worship Krishna in a purified state of mind. I shall constantly petition him in humbleness. My name Advaita will be fitting if I am able to induce Krishna to inaugurate the movement of the chanting of the holy name. Advaita is the same age as Krishna's father. While he was thinking about how to propitiate Krishna by worship, the following verse came to his mind. Tulasi bala matrena jalesha chulakena va vikti niti swam atmanam bhaktevyo bhakta vatsala. Sri Krishna, who is very affectionate towards his devotee, sells himself to a devotee who offers him merely a tulsi leaf and a palmful of water. Advaita Acharya considered the meaning of the verse in this way. Quote, not finding any way to repay the debt he owes to one who offers him a tulsi leaf and water, Lord Krishna thinks, there is no wealth in my possession that is equal to a tulsi leaf and water. Thus, the Lord liquidates the debt by offering himself to the devotee. Considering in this way, Advaita Acharya began worshipping the Lord. Thinking of the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna, he constantly offered tulsi buds in water from the Ganges. He appealed to Sri Krishna with loud calls and thus made it possible for Krishna to appear. Therefore, the principal reason for Sri Chaitanya's descent is this appeal by Advaita Acharya. The Lord, the protector of religion, appears by the desire of his devotee. So we have been talking about why did Parikshit be so apparently easy on, not exactly, he was ready to kill Kali, but he didn't. We've been thinking about this. We've been talking about it. It seems like, why didn't he just do it? But there's a backstory. There's always the backstory. And there's a lot of backstories to this. Krishna's thinking himself. It's been a long time since I've gone that and really given them. Because, every other age, there's a very interesting little booklet. I have a copy of it somewhere, but I don't know where I put it. But Rabindra Swarup did a very intensive study. And it described at the end of each, the Satya Yuga, the Treta, the Dwapara, there's certain portals back to Vaikuntha. And then there's the Kali Yuga that's after the 28th cycle, or during that 28th cycle. And that's the portal that brings you the opportunity for servitude. The servitude is there in Vaikuntha, but it also gives you the opportunity for friendship, parental, and conjugal. The others, that's almost impossible. You're going to Vaikuntha. You're going back to Godhead. But, there may be exceptions that I'm not aware of. But that's my understanding. And like you were saying yesterday in the class, the holy name has been there. It was there in Satya Yuga. They knew about it. It was there in Treta Yuga. It was there in Dwapara Yuga. It was there in other Kali Yugas. I heard several different, I've been studying this a lot, and several different explanations. One of them is that in the Satya Yuga and these other ages, they thought, just using my mouth and my lips and my tongue and saying the names of God, it's not as, it seems like I should sit down and meditate. And yet they had thousands of years to do that and really control my mind, or offer all this wealth, or perform these great sacrifices and austerities. It seemed too easy in some ways, but also it stated that the holy name was there, and it is not different from the Lord, but in this age, from what I understand, could be wrong on this, but what I think is that in this age, the Lord has invested more potency to that mantra for this age, because He came Himself personally as a devotee, disguised. I mean, He's Krishna in the mood of Radharani, and He doesn't want people to know He's God. And He's invested. And it's in there in Shastastika that I've invested, in all the holy names. Everything's invested within that the potency is invested within those names. So, of course, it always has to do with the practitioner's attitude and the way they control their minds, how they hear it, how they chant it, how pure their hearts are, how pure their desires are, so that the Lord will reciprocate. But in this age, this mantra is, it's like, it's the most potent process that you can get in creation, in the material world. We're in a prison house where we have to suffer all the threefold miseries. We have to experience old age, disease, and death, and yet we kind of get used to it. And we don't really, until it really hits us hard, we're always shocked that, like Yudhisthira Maharaj says, the most amazing thing is that I see everybody around me dying, but yet I don't really, relate to it. I don't understand, oh, did you hear he died? I mean, there's that story where two women walked in to tell Prabhupada that their daughter was dying. And Prabhupada said, yes, haven't you been listening to what I'm saying? We're all dying. That's what I've been preaching. We're all dying. Everything. It's like Adi said in his class, there is no good death. Even if you're asleep and it doesn't look like you're suffering, you see everything being ripped from you. All your possessions, all your, subtle conceptions of yourself, just taken away. Just ripped away from all of that. You're gone. And everything there just becomes, who cares? You have all these little chotskis all over your place and nice pictures and memories, but it doesn't mean anything to anybody else. Maybe your children for a while, but it doesn't mean anything. I mean, it's just taken away. You're just ripped away from it. And you see these people standing outside their houses in this place, paradise. Famous people. Their houses are gone. Just gone. Everything in it. There was no way to get anything out. You can't imagine what that means. I mean, I can't. I just look around our little place and, all these little pictures, we got with our dogs and, who cares about it but us? But it's gone. These people have lost everything. And it means nothing. It means nothing. Krishna actually is in the spiritual world and he's thinking, it's been a long time since I've given him this chance. I want to give him a chance. So he comes. And then he performs these amazing pastimes. It really starts, and I was going to read some of it, but I just try to remember. It really starts, when you start getting into some of this, it is amazing how much is there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I wish I could find that one verse, but he's, where is it here? But is it this one? Yeah, I think it's in here. So, after he gets initiated by Ishwara Puri, that's when he comes back and he starts in full measure the Sankirtan movement. Here it is. Oh. No, that's not it. I wish I could find that one verse. It's so beautiful. But it basically says that Krishnadas Kaviraj is so poetic when he writes certain verses. Here it is. I love this one. It says, I offer my respectful obeisances to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. By the potency of the shelter of his lotus feet, even a fool can collect the valuable jewels of conclusive truth from the minds of revealed scriptures. And these, when you start really digging in, it's like turning corners, and then there's a treasure. You know, like when they get into a pyramid or something inside a tomb, and then they find this. Oh my God! Look at the wealth. If you listen to these stories, these beautiful stories of Lord Chaitanya, one of the first things he's doing, he's going out on Harinam, and at the end of the day, everybody's really tired. So he takes a seed. It's a mango seed. He plants it in the ground. You know the story. And immediately a tree grows, a mango tree grows. And it produces about 200 mangoes. And specifically Prabhupada mentions yellow and red. That's the color you want. And it says no skin. The Prabhupada said if it's thin skin, that's very good. No skin. And one mango filled you completely. And it did that every day for the next year, or maybe, I don't know how long, but at least the next year. That he takes a seed, they were going out on Harinam, then he sees everybody's tired and thirsty, takes the seed, puts it in the ground, boom, tree. Boom, 200 mangoes, perfectly satisfying, everything. And nobody's had all kinds of stories like this, even on their own personal, maybe not to that extent. But you'd be out on Harinam, and all of a sudden, I was on this padayatra that was going up the what is it called? US 1 on the west coast. We were just outside of Pepperdine University, just north of LA. It was in 1989. And they would go for 10 miles, and there was a bus that was supposed to meet them with water and fruits. And then you'd go another 10 miles. And they were gradually working their way. They had started up in Canada, and they were working their way to get to LA in time for the Rath Yatra. So I happened to be staying at that time in Los Angeles with Vivekananda. And so I joined the party outside of Los Angeles. So we get to Pepperdine University, which was supposed to be the meeting point, and the bus wasn't there. A lot of traffic. So we're all sitting there, and everybody's saying, boy, this is just like a little grove in Vrindavan. They had these neat little trees, and we're sitting under the shade. And somebody said, well, they must be like desire trees. So anyway, I'm dying of thirst, and they're all waiting. I said, I'm not going to wait. I'm going to go to those tennis courts. There's got to be a water fountain or something over there. I go over there, and there's I don't remember how many cases, but there was more than we needed. A bottled water, and it was all ice cold. And it was sitting in the tennis court. I'm looking around for anybody. I call out. I think maybe that some going to have some tennis practice. Nobody's there. So I just picked up 2 cases and put them back. And then everybody starts running back, and we just had more water than we needed. So then, up above us was a South Indian temple. Ramanujacharya's style. And they're very respectful to us. But it was straight up this mountain. So there was a big discussion, because we were supposed to keep going south towards LA. This would have been going up a mountain several miles. So we're going back and forth, and we were all fired up by this miracle with the water. So we decided to go up the mountain. And, it took a long time to get up there. But as we're going up, people are driving back and forth to the temple, and word's getting out to these South Indian Brahmins that we're on our way. So when we get there, they pull out all the stops. They stop all their puja, everything. They do arti to us. They offer us big platters of fruit. It was just ecstatic. And then we all had big kirtans. It was wonderful. It was amazing. You experience this mercy that Srila Prabhupada has distributed to the Western countries, and that Lord Chaitanya came to give. Because Krishna was thinking, it's been a long time since I've gone to the material world to help those poor, suffering, conditioned souls who are rotting in the material world. I want to give them a chance. Krishna's reaching out to us. So it's like, for me, I need to constantly hear things like this because you get caught up in the moment-to-moment, day-to-day grind, it seems like sometimes. And you forget. Like, you come in the morning at Mangalarti time, no matter what else is going on, Radharani is just like a reservoir of beauty. She's smiling at you. And you have a sense that she's actually hearing Krishna's flute. She's not hearing me go, because the voice in the morning. She's not hearing that. She's hearing Krishna's flute, and she's just bliss, just beauty, just pouring it out to anybody who wants it. And then you look over Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda and they say, see, this is what you need to go and tell everybody about. Radharani and Krishna. Come on, go get them. Go out and chant. Tell them about Radha and Krishna. Tell them about Goloka. Tell them about their eternal relationship that they forgot. It's right there. She's right there. She's always smiling. Have you ever seen Radharani not smiling? And I mean smiling. Not like just some painted smile. You can feel it. Anyway, because, the point is that the verse says, the purport says that Maharaj Parikshit is setting the example for the common man. So I did the research and I saw that it mentioned Lord Chaitanya in the purport in the Bhagavad Gita. Yad yad acharita sheshtas. Whatever the great man does, the common man follow. So Prabhupada is saying a great man is one who takes the Lord Chaitanya's movement. And, it's a grave responsibility. And I know that after all these years, I still have a long way to go. I mean, I have have to be honest that, I want to be, like Charu said, Prabhupada was non-different from what he read. He was reading about in the books. There was no difference in Prabhupada's private life and in what he says in his books. I can't always do that. Sometimes I get frivolous or whatever. Or I get morose. I haven't reached that. Please don't judge Krishna consciousness on me. Judge it on, devotees like Jayapataka Maharaj. Judge it on Srila Prabhupada. There are many devotees. But we ourselves, we have to understand what a grave responsibility we have. We have to, first of all, we have to understand how fortunate we are. We have to constantly be reminding ourselves how fortunate we are. Even though it may not always seem that way. That's why Trinadapi Sunichena Toro Eva Sahisnuna Amanina Manadena Ketana. Humble as a blade of grass, more tolerant than the tree, ready to offer respect to everyone. Don't expect to be respected. Don't desire to be respected. In that state of mind, you can constantly chant the holy name in a blissful state of mind, not begrudgingly. And so I just wanted to share this with you. I don't know if I was making any sense. I kind of went around here and there, but I tried to follow some kind of logic. Anyone like to add or say? Yes, John?
Yeah, I'm big on Lord Chaitanya, about how he came back 500 years ago to help out, the movement, in that, how Krishna came in that incarnation. But the thing I'm concerned is like can you elaborate on the many things he wanted to do? I mean, I know he stressed chanting, but I try to save mankind, the human race, but. Yeah. But I'm sure that's not all he wanted to do. I mean, as people started becoming more and more, better, Krishna consciousness. Yeah.
Well, I mean, because we become more ideal people,
Yeah.
we're able to actually live by the proper. We won't start making, changes. Like people right now, sometimes like they put a lot of emphasis in teaching their children to get a good education. But a good education isn't just about, cramming a bunch of facts into your head and then you get an A or an A+. A good education also means what kind of a person you are, what kind of character you are. Good education means that you even if they have a heavy workload, that they go to the temple and participate in kirtan and develop these qualities. Because if we don't have, the proper and the higher taste, the higher taste comes from the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. It's not about, we're doing this because I'm going to get a salary or because of whatever other motives people have. People have to take care of themselves, but, Krishna will provide. And we have to understand Prabhupada's instructions. Now that's the point where the whole second half part of the movement is that discussion. It's a very important one. And over again you hear Prabhupada talking about Varnashram. And not everybody is going to be a devotee. A full-time devotee. But we will have people that are in our community that are working for us or working with us. And they'll be influenced by our lifestyle and taking prasad. And gradually they will take to that. But we have to be making sure that we don't minimize the absolute standards. Austerity, cleanliness, mercy,
truthfulness.
and truthfulness. Like I was giving the example that there's so many moral things that they have made, and one excuse that they were making in that case I was talking about in Florida, where they were seriously considering euthanasia as a good cost, by cost analysis, not just by Kevorkian standards. And they used certain Aboriginal tribes as like they did this with, I think, with some Eskimos or something at a certain point.
They walked off into the ice.
Yeah, things like that. And so that's encouraged, a kind of suicide thing or something. But, and I think there's even one of the Scandinavian countries, but it's not exactly euthanasia, it's more like if you have some really debilitating, painful disease, you're given the option not to suffer, to die with dignity, they say. But then you have the
Washington State in America, you can do it.
Yeah, but is that true? So, and you can almost, people think it's compassion. And you could almost understand that because you can see these people suffering so much. What's the point if you can just put them to sleep? But they still have their karma. If they don't live out their karma, they still have to suffer again. Yes?
Yeah, just on that point, it's an interesting and complex issue, but not that I support euthanasia, but it's also a reality that a lot of times the elderly in modern society are artificially kept past the
No, I
time
agree
they're
with that.
supposed to go.
That's another issue.
And
That's a whole other issue.
Yeah,
Like
it's
when they're
complex.
purposely, they know the person's no longer alive, really. They're just, technically I was dead because they took my heart out of my body. They were keeping me alive by machines. So you could say at that point I would. And until they patched in these other little veins into the arteries, then they could put the heart back in. But then not now, I actually can function. But there's another point when people are in comas that go on. And there was a case, Schreibo or something?
Yeah, Shivo.
And I actually missed that whole thing. I was in Mayapur at the time. So it happened after I left for India. And when I came back, it was already over. So I only heard the bits and pieces of it. But, and I noticed also, like with my mother-in-law, they knew how much money she had. They knew exactly the numbers. And they were keeping her going. and going to squeeze as much out of this. She was like 96, and they wanted to do hip surgery on her. I mean, seriously? You want to do hip surgery on a 96-year-old woman? They just knew there was more money over there. And I actually, when I worked in the hospital, there's a lot of people who die from hip surgery. And not because of hip surgery, but because they're so old and their body can't take it and they have a heart attack. Mm-hmm. I was talking to a man. Did you have your hand raised, Mark? No, I was talking to this man. Everything seems fine. And all of a sudden, he's like, and next thing I know, he leaves his body. Mm-hmm. This is around the time I'm seeing devotees every day when I get off work. And seeing a man die, he was there and now he's not, but the body is still there, and all they cared about is tag it and bag it, clear the hallways. No, they didn't want any of the guests or any of the patients to know there was someone died. Close all the doors, don't close the elevators. Get the gurney, you put him in the bag, you tag his toe, get him down to the morgue, and don't talk about it. And don't let anybody know somebody died. It's bad for business. And I'm going, well, what happened? He was there, he's gone. The only people that would talk to me was devotees. Because I would come off, as soon as I got off the train, there they were. So what was it, Mataji?
Just that, I forget the word in Sanskrit, but there is a legitimate way to end your life, that you just fast until death.
Right.
And we had a dear friend, Manarupa, who was married to Talavana, and that's what she decided to do. She had terminal cancer, and she went to Mayapur, and they had tried some different alternative cures, and even, like, I don't know, like if it was radiation therapy or chemotherapy. But then they decided she would go to Mayapur to leave, and my Guru Maharaj wasn't there, so she waited until he came, and up until that point she was taking some juice and broth and like food like that, and then he gave her his blessings to go.
Well, think about Prabhupada.
She did that. And Prabhupada did the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, one of my god sisters, I don't want to give her name, but her husband passed away a few years ago. And when I saw her, I didn't know. And she was saying, I feel like, well, my son is saying that he feels like, he committed suicide. And she explained the circumstances. And I said, no, he did exactly what Prabhupada did. He knew he was going to die. He didn't want them to see it. And he just stopped eating and fasted and passed away in Mayapur.
And it's actually a natural process because the body is shutting down.
Right.
So that's just the next thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's there. But this other thing I'm talking about where you start to calculate, just like, really, abortion is about economics. I don't want to make people uncomfortable, but it's a fact. And it's about economics. It's about whether you can afford to have a baby. I remember reading something in a Time magazine or something many years ago. And the stories of women that have had them and regretted it. I heard this one, and one woman was saying she could hear, I always wonder if I should say these things. I don't want to upset people. But anyway, she could hear, Mommy, it's okay. I don't take up much room. Please, let me stay. She'd already, it had already happened. So I used to do this play called The Age of Kali. And it was really heavy, the way I did it. And very intense. And I was in Queens College. And this happened a couple of times, and certain lines that I said, and the way I said it, I would see, every now and then, I'd see women crying. And I think, this isn't good. This isn't what I want. But that's the reality, because I remember when the whole discussion started, and I started thinking, I was in Boston at the time, and there was this big guy who's like the Martin Luther King of abortion rights. And you thought, well, it makes sense. It seems like, give the woman a chance. But it's wrong. you know, and euthanasia. It's wrong. I mean, if you're just doing a cost analysis, you know, it's one thing like Mataji Harjwani just mentioned, that's one thing. There's another thing when you coldly calculating the corporate calculations of units of how much they cost us and how much they will save by eliminating them. You know, so the point is from the book that the Bhagavatam, and then it's reference to the Bhagavad Gita. You know, we have to set a standard to protect the. We won't be affected by Kali because we're under the shelter of Srila Prabhupada. But the less intelligent and the uninformed, they might get swayed by it. And we have to set a good example and give them a good opportunity. Like I saw a woman yesterday over at the... I have a mini storage thing over by Dollar General. And there was a woman, one of the smaller ones, and she's living out of it. And she looks like a normal person. You know, nothing crazy about her. And who knows what led her to that point. And she's basically living out of a car in this storage unit. And because she had been using an electric heater that night, her battery had died on the car. And she had to get to work. And I didn't have jumper cables. And the funny thing, just the day before I was thinking, I got to get a pair of jumper cables. But I was able to let her use a phone and she can get in touch with a couple of people and make arrangements. But I mean, those are the kinds of people that Food for Life would be really good if we knew how to go around to them and reach them, you know, especially now at this time of the year. Because there are people like that. And it's no fault of their own necessarily. She seemed like a decent person. And anyway, you know, I don't know why I went there, I just was thinking about it. Anything else? Yes?
Thank you for your nice class today. Again, it's another extra reminder of what Adi was saying. It's still ringing in my head, you know.
Yeah.
It's good to talk about it, you know, because I'm not near ready. I'm always afraid of that. And association of devotees is very important, you know. Being nice to each other, you know. That's just, and being here.
Even after almost experiencing it, you still fear it?
Yes, I feel it.
I mean, you and I experienced something similar.
I fear the most. I always
Really?
have that problem. Yeah.
I somehow or other, I saw the philosophy, and I'm concerned about it, and I want to make sure everything's in place, but you never know, do you? You know, we're very strong in one sense, but just one little air bubble, and boom, you know. Anyway, thanks to Srila Prabhupada's books, maybe I was able to say something. Yes?
I wanted to say one thing that about intelligent people are able to take to this, and only intelligent people can be devotees. And but we have to make sure to define what kind of intelligence, because euthanasia also was
Intelligent thing.
you know, that kind of intelligence.
You can be over-intelligent. Prabhupada said you can be over-intelligent.
Well, I mean, it's not about the size of brain. It's not about the capacity of the brain power.
Right.
It's about using your intelligence instead of your mind in that context. And everybody's got intelligence in their body.
Yeah. But this intelligence that we're talking about is the intelligence that's coming from the spiritual masters, from, you know, like Prabhupada said, there's no such thing as intuition. Intuition is simply super soul telling you where to go, what to say.
Yeah. There's a purport in the second canto, I think, talking about super soul. And Prabhupada says that, if I get this right, intelligence is the form direction of the super soul. So super soul forms intelligence to direct. And everybody's got intelligence in their soul bodies. That kind of intelligence isn't about brain size. Mm-hmm. So if you listen to intelligence instead of mind and emotions, then we are listening to super soul.
So I would like to make one point is that, and I'm going to try to get this corrected, but if you've seen the copy of the minutes from the Saturday night meeting from April and you weren't at the meeting, I want to make the point that in the opening statements, and I was the third person to speak for 5 minutes, or 4, that what is said in the minutes is not what I said. No, it isn't. It was what I was supposed to say, but I didn't say that.
Oh.
And
You said more.
no, I said something different. And I want to get that corrected. And
You said that thing later on in the meeting, though.
what?
You said, and kind of near the end of the meeting, those things that she gave you, that you said in the first part. You said.
How do you know what I said in the first place?
Because we were here toward the end. You spoke
Yeah, you
twice.
sort of summed up, and you said, you expressed those things.
They had you
pretty much.
listed before Rhonda Ganesh.
Yeah.
We didn't even
Well,
hear
no,
that.
but what I said in the beginning was
Yeah.
the main accomplishment that we have done recently is this meeting.
Ah.
That we, first of all, since 1974, there's only 3 temple presidents.
I remember you saying that.
And then there's, so you were eavesdropping, you weren't, oh, you're over 50 and you were sneaking. No. I don't care. I didn't think it was fair that Dr. John couldn't be there or anything. I thought it should have been open to everybody, but, or at least it should have been recorded. But in any case, oh yeah, Pajaris, yeah.
No, but
See,
against the point against recording it is that I heard that people wouldn't feel so candid. If
yeah, I heard that too. I heard that too. But there are some reasons now why it should have been. Because I don't remember exactly, it was one of those Paramount moments, because I was going to say what they had asked me to say, but pretty much all of that had been already said very nicely by Lakshmi, and then it just, I thought, what is this? And then I realized, this is, the real accomplishment is that we're sitting here discussing the transition from one, we've only had 3 temple presidents. And now, instead of like some secret whispering behind each other's backs and petitions and politics, in a very open and like ladies and gentlemen, in the spirit of cooperation, we're discussing the inevitable need for new leadership. And I thought, this is a fantastic accomplishment. We should all be proud of ourselves. I mean, it was something like that.
I remember you saying that. But we were here for the opening statements because our.
I said it again later.
You said it again later.
I don't know.
You had a summing up kind of moment.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, that was, and that is really, if you think about what we did there, I mean, that was, and I think actually some people, it was actually good for, that it was just those people. And it really did dawn on me just how much of the temple is already being done by the second generation. The cow program, totally. I mean, and let's look at Narayan. He has a job that he works and makes money. Then he goes and works and does the hay, makes the money to support the cows, and doesn't take a dime of that money. Not a dime. Just like you have a garden, you gave all of it to the temple.
We ate some too.
Yeah, but you offered it. You offered it. You didn't sell it. You didn't think of it as a business. I mean, it's one. But he is selling hay. So that. But where does that money go? It goes to support the cows, and it could go to support the temple if we could do more. And I don't think that would be unnecessarily a bad idea. It's not necessarily a cash crop. And it would be like, a temporary measure to get us from point A to point B or C, to get to self-sufficiency. It might help us. So, I mean, and then you have, Jayanti's milking the cows, and you have people like yourselves, and Bhakti Jesse, and Bhakti John, and Kara doing gardens. And these gardens have been very successful and productive. And so there's things like that. It's just a question of certain other issues like deity worship and so on. But no, it was a very nice meeting. I thought it was, and the fact that we were having that kind of a meeting instead of the usual, what would happen, we got to get this guy out. Let's all get together with petitions and let's all list his all the things we don't like about them and blah, blah, blah. It wasn't like that at all. It was very sweet. And Yogendra was sitting right there, and he opened up the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
That's
really
good.
It's very good.
Thing.
Excellent. And I'm sure Prabhupada's smiling on us. Jai, Haribol.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. That was on all this time?
Yep.